On January 20th, 2017, fear struck in the inner Melbourne CBD as a man driving a stolen car recklessly killed and endangered many other pedestrians. With the intention to cause harm and create a disturbance, Mr. Gargasoulas intentionally drove onto the restricted tram and pedestrian areas of Bourke Street Mall. 2 years later, after the trial only lasted 5 days, Mr. Gargasoulas was sentenced to life imprisonment on 33 separate charges, including 6 murders and 27 reckless endangerments. Key provisions of this case included murder, child homicide, causing serious injury recklessly in circumstances of gross violence, and causing serious injury recklessly. In 2019, an inquest into Victoria Police found that paperwork had been issued in error, labelling Gargasoulas as not a risk to the community, allowing him to be freed out on bail just 5 days before the attack. The offender of the Bourke Street Mall massacre is James Gargasoulas. He was 27 years old at the time of the offences. Raised in Cooper Pedy by his father, he would travel back and forth between Melbourne and Cooper Pedy during school holidays to visit his mother. However, when he turned 17, he officially moved to Melbourne to be with his mother on a permanent basis. At the age of 14, James was expelled from school for making an explosive device. After completing a course in mechanics out of school, he was allowed to return for high school. Although he was able to complete Year 11, he eventually dropped out of Year 12. Since the age of 18, James has a long criminal history, including theft and driving offences, as well as drug and assault charges. Having been regularly unemployed for a majority of his life, he worked casual jobs as a removalist and mechanic. Throughout the year of 2016, James was trafficking various illicit drugs, including ice, cannabis, and methamphetamines, which is when he started to abuse the drugs himself. His consistent drug abuse led to a drug-induced psychosis where he experienced one of many spiritual delusional episodes. Along with his experiences, his family began to notice unusual behavioral changes. His mannerisms escalated with erratic discussions about religion, spirits, and the government. His continued chaotic behavior eventually spiraled out of control to the point where he began to preach killing people with a car. Without standing warrants for his arrest, he started to message a family member about his discussions and how he was proclaiming his importance in the world as a savior of the people. After attacking his mother, partner, and brother, he stole a car and began to head towards Flinders Street Station, where he would eventually run down pedestrians on Bourke Street Mall. Yosuke Kano, Jessica Modi, Matthew Sai, Bahivita Patel, Talia Hacken, Zachary Matthew Bryant. These are the 6 victims that lost their lives on January 20th, 2017 at the hands of James Gargasoulas. His deliberate actions tore them away from their families. The victims were aged between just 3 months old and 33 years old. An additional 27 people were severely injured as a result of the event, most who still suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome today. During the trial, 55 victims, including family and friends of those deceased and survivors of the attack, read out their statements for the judge and jury to hear. They described their traumatic experiences of the day and the impact that it has left on them emotionally, physically, and mentally. Handed down with 33 charges, Mr. Gargasoulas was sentenced to life imprisonment with a non-parole period of 46 years. There was outcry by the victims' families that the option of a non-parole period was included for someone who committed not just 1, but 6 murders. Shocked at the circumstances, the judge expressed how on a regular basis the act of a single murder can be considered to be the worst crime possible to commit, but the actions of Mr. Gargasoulas resulted in 6 people dying, including a young child. There are a number of mitigating factors revolving around Gargasoulas, a few which include how his mental state at the time of the offence was proven to be of sound mind, and his constant drug abuse despite being out on bail. A urine sample was taken from the offender at the end of the offence on January 20th, and it tested it positive for the drug ice. The judge continued to describe the actions and his disgust. Considering all factors of Mr. Gargasoulas' previous and current behaviour, the sentence handed down was impacted to ensure little chance of him being released at an age that he would still be able to commit further criminal acts. At this point, for this type of individual, there is no room for rehabilitation. Part 2A of Sentencing Act relates to the reason for the sentencing of this offender to be life imprisonment. The breaking news was covered across the nation, detailing the horrors that occurred in Melbourne CBD. Following the information of the offence was information that created anger and disgust amongst the community. Details of paperwork error made by Victoria Police allowed the offender to be released on bail just 5 days before the attack on unrelated charges. The impact of this particular case caused a dramatic turn for Victoria bail reform law, ensuring that this would never occur again. The bail amendment gives law enforcement the power to grant and/or revoke bail applications pending that they pass a risk test, regardless of the crime that they have committed. In this test, the individual must show that they are not vulnerable adult or have any mental impairments and demonstrate that they are not a risk to themselves or society. Moving forward, the significance of this will mean that a criminal that has committed offences, has outstanding warrants, or a history of serious offences will not be granted bail. The chances of risk to the community will be diminished to serve peace of mind to the community.